Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. Reggae music is among the biggest and in my humble opinion, the greatest genre of music on Jah's green earth. The likes of the Wailers, Burning Spear and Jimmy Cliff are heavily celebrated as being among the most important ambassadors of the art form, with their music introducing the whole world to that infectious sound. But what if I told you that the true catalyst and biggest force responsible for the proliferation of reggae on a planetary scale was this cute Jamaican couple in the legendary Vincent and Patricia Chin? The music business these days gets plenty of criticisms for being run by pure merchants and portfolio investors who lack a true feel for the music. But the Chins came from an era when the music business was run by real lovers of the music, and they rose up the ranks, going through every facet and chain of the music business. They did it all, from selling second-hand records to establishing Jamaica's hottest studio and even setting up their own record label. They were intertwined with the birth and development of the Jamaican music industry from the days of ska and will play their own priceless role in the evolution of reggae's greatest names like the Wailers, Augustus Pablo and Toots and the Maytals, who would all pass through their recording studio en route to becoming legends. Not to talk of the incredible producers who came of age at their establishment. But amidst all their exploits, they are mostly celebrated for building the biggest reggae record label on the globe. A label that truly had the muscle to make digital dancehall a worldwide phenomenon in the 1980s, and the juggernaut that it would become in the 1990s into the 2000s. Let's take a look at the amazing story and legacy of Vincent and Patricia Chin. And this story begins with Vincent Chin. Vincent, also popularly called Randy Chin, was born in Kingston, Jamaica on the 3rd of October 1937. To a Chinese immigrant father and Jamaican mother, he grew up on the tough streets of Kingston and began to run with the rude boys from a young age. And by his late teens, he was a quintessential bad boy who smoked herb and was a notorious ladies' man. His roving eye would set his sights on a cute young lady also with Chinese heritage that was the same age as him and went by the name Dorothy Patricia Williams, more popularly known as Miss Pat. Her father wanted her to become a banker, but inspired by the heroics of Mother Teresa, she enrolled at the University of West Indies in Kingston to study nursing. The freedom of campus life allowed young Vincent to come around and visit her often, and the pair would start dating. Her father didn't like Vincent because of his rude boy credentials, but she was already smitten. The pair got married at the age of 19, and young Vincent was forced to become serious with life. Vincent got a job working for multi-millionaire hotel owner Isaac Issa, stocking the newly introduced 7-inch records into jukeboxes at his boss's chain of outlets in Kingston. Instead of throwing the older discs away, Vincent began to collect them, and over time, Patricia began to consider the idea of reselling the used records to the public. In 1959, the couple took over an ice cream parlor space that was within a grocery store, and from there, they started selling the used records. Vincent would name that record store Randy's, after Randy Wood, the owner of WHIN AM, a jazz, R&B and country music station in Tennessee that he listened to religiously on his radio. 2 years later, they would relocate that store to where it would always be associated with. They found an 8 by 10 foot space within a Chinese restaurant at 17 North Parade, a really busy area of downtown Kingston that was right next door to a very central bus route. They would set up speakers right outside and played music to attract customers, and the business began to thrive. Not only did the location and outdoor speakers attract customers, but also the crowds that would throng outside to hear the latest music, and that factor alone would inspire a number of future artists. Reggae singer Half Pint revealed in a recent interview that his love for music started with hanging outside Brandy's record store anytime he got the chance to sneak out of his mother's house. Over time, that business would make enough money for them to buy out the Chinese restaurant and eventually buy the whole building. And soon after, the couple, sensing the massive potential of an emerging music industry in Jamaica, bought the house next door and began to build a state-of-the-art studio that they would name Studio 17. It was simply one of a kind as it came fully contained. Artists generally had to record in one place and master in another, but the Chins changed all of that. Miss Pat would test records at their shop to gauge customers' interests and choose the songs that they would mass produce and sell. The Chin's timing was simply impeccable, as Jamaica would get independence in 1962, and the wave of optimism would birth Jamaica's music business. Vincent Chin would produce what would become his first major hit from his studio and label, that was a calypso tune by Lord Creator named Independent Jamaica. Randy's store became so popular and busy that it became more than a place to buy records. It would morph into a hangout spot and a place to be for music lovers from all over the city. And also, musicians would frequent an alley a few doors away and hang out there day and night. That place, popularly called Idler's Rest, became the unofficial epicenter of Jamaican music, with the likes of the Wailers, Slim Smith, Toots and the Maytals, and just about everyone becoming usual faces at the spot. By the 1970s, Studio 17 had taken on gifted producers and studio engineers like the great Errol Thompson, and had Vincent's son, Clive Chin, also working there as an upcoming producer. Studio 17 would explode in popularity due to Vincent's affable personality and street smarts. The likes of the Wailers, Augustus Pablo, Gregory Isaacs, and so many more would come into their own at that outfit. And some of the classic albums recorded there include the Wailers' Soul Rebel, Burning Spear's Marcus Garvey, and Augustus Pablo's debut album, This Is Augustus Pablo, that was produced by Clive Chin, who was Pablo's pal from school. That outfit was so impressive that American singer Johnny Nash would book the studio for 3 months during his stay in Jamaica. However, as the 1970s would roll on, Jamaica would become engulfed by political violence and social unrest, and the Chin clan would make a decision to leave the island. They moved to the US in 1977 and chose New York City, as Vincent's brother already lived in Brooklyn. They would begin by buying a small warehouse along Jamaica Avenue and started supplying records from Jamaica to a few outlets, and eventually began to press their own records. The business began to boom, and they made enough money to buy a building for a new record shop at 17021 Jamaica Avenue in Queens in 1979. And they named this new outlet VP Records, which got its name from the initials of their names, Vincent and Patricia. And just like back home, their store would thrive heavily, and by 1990 would become New York's home for reggae music, and that period coincided with the explosion of dancehall into the global mainstream. The likes of Shabba Ranks, JC Lodge and Supercat had just been signed to international labels and were setting dance floors as well as the charts ablaze. It hit the Chins that these were artists whose records they'd been pressing and distributing for years, and of course they knew their music inside out. In typical Vincent and Pat style, they would register the VP Records label in 1993. The 1990s was a decade that saw dancehall explode globally in popularity, and VP Records would move strategically to sign many new as well as existing superstar artists and push them onwards into the international stage. They would transform Beenie Man from being a mostly Jamaican-based sensation to global superstar when his 1997 track Who Am I would hit the record shelves. They would also start working with Shabba Ranks and Supercat, not to mention Beres Hammond and Sizzla Kalonji, unleashing their music to a new international audience. But these successes would go into overdrive when the Chin's grandson, Joel Chin, signed a former athlete and swimmer turned dancehall DJ named Sean Paul in the year 2000. Sean Paul's first album, Stage 1, came out that year and became a hit. But his second album, Dirty Rock, which came out in 2002, became a certified worldwide monster hit that went double platinum and won a Grammy for Best Reggae Album. Since then, the number of Grammy-winning artists under VP Records have continued to rise, as well as the staggering number of artists under that roster. It's estimated that 4 out of 5 reggae superstars today are VP affiliated. Ironically, despite this overwhelming success of dancehall artists under his imprint, Vincent Chin was said to be unimpressed by dancehall artists and their kind of music. And sadly, Vincent Chin was forced to retire due to ill health before passing away on the 3rd of February 2003. And Miss Pat has since soldiered on as the mother hen of that family business. In 2004, VP Records held an epic anniversary concert at the Radio City Music Hall in Manhattan, New York, which saw various VP acts from over the years like Shaggy, Beenie Man and Beres Hammond do their thing on stage. Unfortunately, Miss Pat will celebrate that milestone and lots of others over the years without her beloved husband, who she started out with in that 8x10-foot store in downtown Kingston. Reggae and dancehall have truly broken into the mainstream and taken over the world from that lovely little island of Jamaica, and a huge chunk of the credits will always be given to that cute couple from Kingston in the iconic Vincent and Patricia Chin. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.